This is going to be a video on how to make a 3D series bundle cover like the ones you see on the screen right now. Now, I recently just did one for my Newport Vampire series that you can see. It's the bottom picture on the left-hand side. And I used the model from someone else's, Krista Stree, I think. I used an example from her books that I found on Amazon. Now, I just wanted to include this other picture on the bottom right that shows you can either have your cover on the right or the left and the books running in either direction. And also the picture on the upper right-hand side, this is the first one I chose to do a long time ago. And what I liked about this one is that it was really very easy because it was just boxes. It was just like one, rectangle after another. And that one was very easy. So keep that in mind if you're new to graphic design and this seems a little bit difficult for you, you can always simplify it by using a book cover like that one. So anyway, let's go on to the next thing. Okay, and there will be a bonus at the end for anybody who watches until the end. I'm going to show you how to make the popular clipped finger pull or thumb cut that you see on many of the bundle 3D covers, just like here. Okay, so I'll cover that at the end of the video. This is the cover I will be making in this video. It's for my police procedural series, and the instructions that I'm going to show you will work for any size series or a series that faces in either direction. Okay, so the first step is we're going to make a pattern out of the design that I have chosen. Okay, so my series is going to have 6 books in it. So the only one I could find today without spending hours and hours was one for 7 books, but this will serve the purpose, as you'll see as we get going. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to use the Paths tool, because I will be using that periodically through many of the steps. So over here, there is a tool. It looks like a spray can of some kind, and it is the Paths tool. So I'm going to click on this, and then I am going to click around. I'm going to click at each corner here. And down here in the front, over here. And then right before I close this, I have to hold the control key and then click inside, and that will end the pathway. Okay, now from this distance, it looks like it's all set up and everything is perfect. But as you scroll in and look very closely, what you will realize is that a lot of times it's not really perfect, that you have to come in here and kind of adjust these. Like this one here, it's way off. So I have to pull this in here. And then the same thing. This one is not too bad. This one has to be adjusted here a little bit. And up here is pretty good. Just a little bit here. All right. So now I'm going to scroll back out. I keep losing my toolbox over here. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to activate this area. So I'm going to click on Shift V, and that's going to create this pathway here. So I'm going to click on Select Invert, because what I want to do is I want it to get rid of the white that is surrounding this. So I'm going to click on Delete, and that got rid of the background. Okay? And then in order to get all of these marching ants to stop, I'm going to click on Select None. Okay. And then in order to get rid of all the little circles, you click on the move tool and they will disappear. Okay. Now, that's how to use the paths tool. So now what I'm going to do is make an outline of this that I can follow later on after my design is done. So I'm going to need my foreground color and I want it to be black. So I just switched these here so that black is my foreground color, and I'm going to come back to the paths tool and I'm going to pretty much do the same thing. I'm going to click here, here, here on every single point. And then I'm going to scroll in. Okay, so that is ready to go. So now I'm going to also click again, Shift V to activate the pathway. Then I'm going to come up and click on Edit, Stroke Path, and I'm going to see how thick 8 pixels is. So I'm going to click Stroke. All right, and let's see. Let me just put a new layer. Outside border on all. All right, so let's try it again. Stroke path, stroke. All right, so now let's turn this off and let's turn this off. And okay, I have it. Now, I really want it to be a little bit thicker than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Shift V again to reactivate it. And then I'm going to come up here and choose 20. Chose the wrong thing there. Stroke path. And instead of using 8, I'm going to use, let's use 15. Stroke. And then no. Okay, that's good. All right. And then the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a line down here. So let's do this here and here. And let me just make sure it's exactly where I want it. And I'm going to do the same thing, stroke path. It's set up for 15, so I'm stroking. There you go. Okay, so now this is going to be my ultimate model that I'm going to fit what I'm about to do into this shape later on using the perspective tool. So for right now, I just want to save this. So let me turn off the borders. Let me turn off the path tool. Okay, so this is set to go then. All right. So I'm just going to leave this here, but it's ready to go. Now, the next thing that I'm going to need in order to complete the project is my front cover, which is the first book in my series, and this is my high resolution cover. The next thing I'm going to need is a picture to put across the books behind the titles. Okay. And I use this picture a lot in the covers already in this series. So this is going to be the picture that I'm going to use. And I also want to use a police badge because I want to brand this in a way that will let everyone know it's a police procedural. So when I first started to do the design, I also brought in the handcuffs because I wasn't sure which way I was going to go, but I think the police badge worked the best. So if you're going to do any branding, you're going to need that too. All right, so the next thing we're going to need is a large rectangle area that we can work in. Now, because this is a cover, we're going to be working in high resolution. So I'm going to come up here to the image and click on Canvas and show you that the size I'm using here, so that I have plenty of room, is 2082 pixels wide and 1000 pixels tall. And one of the most important things is that I'm working in 300 ppi, which is high resolution. Okay. And okay, so that's the size that I am working in. So the first thing you're going to do is to bring in your cover. So this is the cover of my book. I brought it in and I shrunk it down to fit in place. And in order to shrink it down, what you would do, if it's too big, you click on Shift S and that will surround it. And then you can scale the tool down by moving these corners. Okay, so that's how you work with the sizing. All right, so after you have these, then the next thing we're going to do is you're going to eyeball how much space you think you're going to need. If you just have a pretty nice size rectangle that you can fit your author name in and the title of your book. Okay. All right, so the next thing that you would do is we're going to create a rectangle for the books. Now, in order to create this rectangle, all I did was I clicked on here to the rectangle, I dragged it out, and then I clicked on Select to Path, and I did the same thing. I came to Edit, Stroke Path, and I stroked the path. Okay, so that's how I got that. All right, so let me select None. All right, and that gives me enough space for me to create the books. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is to create an area that's going to represent the size of one of the books. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to, first of all, add a layer, and I'm going to call it Book 1. Okay, and then click OK. And that creates a space for what I'm about to do. Now I'm going to come over here and get the rectangle, and I'm going to drag out a rectangle that looks like it's the size of a book. Okay. Now I think that's the size of a book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Select to Path. Okay. And then I'm going to a Stroke Path. Now I don't want this as thick, so let me go back to 8. Okay, and stroke. All right, and when I unselect this, you're going to see that that is going to indicate where I'm going to put the name of the book, the author, and my emblem. Okay, now, so that I don't bore you to tears, I have done all of these ahead of time. Okay, so there are all of my boxes because I have 6 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 6 books. Okay. So that gives me an indication as to where the titles, the badge, and my name is going to go. Now, the next thing I want to do so that I can choose the proper color for the titles and the author name is to figure out how the picture is going to look in the background of all of these covers. So the next thing you want to do is bring in the picture of the cover. So I have the picture of the cover there. Okay. Now it's a little bit too bright because I want it to be a little bit darker. So what I did was I created a color wash. So I'm going to click on this foreground color, click on the eyedropper, and just pick like a darker green here. Okay. And I'm going to then go back. Let me make sure I have a layer. I have to create a layer, color wash. Okay. And now I'm going to click this rectangle tool and drag it around all of my books here. Make sure that it's covering all of the lines. Okay, even the bottom one. Now, I'm not going to go back and forth, but I will say if you are doing this yourself, you're going to want to zoom in to make sure that you have surrounded everything properly, because it's very easy at a distance to think that, oh, it's perfect, but it's not. Okay, so this is very good right now. All right. So now what I'm going to do on this layer is right click and choose fill with foreground color. Now, of course, that covers it all up. Looks terrible. But that is because I have to change the mode of the layer from normal to, let's see, overlay. Okay, now that is a little bit too dark still. So I'm going to start dropping the opacity. Okay. Now, if I put because I'm going to be using white font, which is the same as, it's actually a little bit brighter than the font I used on my book cover, but I wanted to stand out on this. So if, as I get my titles in here, I realize that this is still a little bit too dark, I can come back to this and then drop the opacity down a little bit. And then this way it will be a little bit lighter or darker, however I need it to be. So that's how you do the color wash on your picture. All right. So now the next thing we are going to do is start putting in the titles. So what you're going to need to do is figure out which one of your books has the longest title. And that is the one you're going to use in order to pick the size of the font. So my first book happens to be the longest title. So that's what I'm going to use here. So I'll show you how this is done. So let me come up here with the titles. Let's see if this is it here. No, that's the author name. Okay. Not quite sure where oh, here it is, Murder in the Sanctuary. Yeah, here it is. Okay. All right, so I'll put this layer right above it and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so this one is Murder. I'll just put Sanctuary. So I know this is the one to delete. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here. First, I'm going to switch this back to black and white and make white my foreground color because the text tool picks up the foreground color. So I'm going to click on my text tool and let me see if I can give a little bit more room here. All right, and this is set at 45 because I already know that's the size that I need for the font. It's also centered, and I have Times New Roman, which is the font that I am going to use. So I'm going to click anywhere and type in murder at this, murder in the sanctuary. Okay, and then click on the move tool or hit M on the keyboard to get out of the font tool. And then you're going to hit Shift R to rotate it. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees and click rotate. Okay, and now it is rotated. So let me zoom in here a little bit. All right, and see over here, you see how it's kind of, it has these marching ants on it. It's letting me know that it's still a floating selection that has been transformed. So just come down here and click, and that will lay it down. And my advice is, it's going to call it a transformation. My advice is that you go in and change it to the title of the book. because otherwise you're going to have all these layers and not know what any one of them is. Okay, so now that it's heading in the right direction, I'm going to click M on the keyboard for my move tool and move this over here into place. Now, in order for me to make sure that all of my titles, my badge, and my author name are all aligned properly, I'm going to pull down some guides. So I'm going to pull down this guide here, okay, and that's going to be where my titles will begin. All right, then I'm going to put this down here, and that's going to be where the badge goes. But first, I'm going to make sure I have enough space for my author name. So I'm going to put another guide here to make sure that I have, a nice margin so that my name isn't going too far to the bottom. And now I'm going to, again, click on the font tool and click anywhere, and then type R Shannon, and the author name is 40. So I'm going to click in here and click Control A to surround all of it, and then choose 40 here. Okay, that shrinks it just a little bit, and then click over on the Move tool, and then again, Shift R to rotate 90 degrees, rotate. Okay, and once it's heading in the right direction, you hit M to move it into place. Okay, so I want it to be here. So that gives me just a little space here for my badge. So the badge is going to, let's do this. Copy visible. I'm going to come back here. Okay, and I'm going to, let's see where the badge is here. Badge. So we'll go here. And I will, okay, so it's on my invisible clipboard. So I'm going to click Control V, and that's going to put it in as a floating selection. So the first thing I'm going to do is anchor it by making it a layer. Now, of course, it's way too big. So I have to hit Shift S to scale it. And I'm going to scale it all the way down, hit scale, and then I'm going to come in closer so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, it still has to shrink down. I think it goes down to 100 or maybe 70. We'll do 80. I think 80 looks good. Whoops. There we go. Scale. All right. Now, in order for them to, let's see here. I think I might want to move the murder up just a little bit here. Murder in the Sanctuary. Okay. So let's move this up here. No, Sanctuary. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to move this up just a tiny bit. Make sure it's in the middle between all of these lines that we drew. And then, where's the badge? Is this the badge? Yes, here's the pasted badge. Okay, and then I'm going to move this line up here just a tinge. Okay, and then move this up, making sure that it's right in the middle. And again, it has enough space for my name. Okay, I'll even move this down just a bit. Okay, so once you have the first book done, then it is just a matter of using your guides and going through the motions and putting in all of your other books. So rather than bore you to tears, I'm going to get rid of this that I just put in. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and click in the badge and put all the badges in and all of the titles in and all of the authors in. And my last book, I don't have a title for, so I'm just calling it Title Unknown for the purposes here. Okay. So this is everything except for this one here, the lines. Okay. All right, so that is finished. Now what we're going to do is put a little bit of light in between all of these books, and that's what I did on the top here, but I'll create another layer and show you how it's done. So we'll call it Lines Between Books 2. Okay, and so I want this to be a lighter color, so I'm going to click on the eyedropper. And let's see, we'll come in here and see what this is. No, that's too dark. Let's try this one. Maybe just a little bit lighter. I think that'll be good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the paintbrush, which is here. And I'm going to come down and only use 5 pixels. Okay. And then I'm going to come up here to the top here, click on the top, and then holding my shift key so I get a perfectly straight line, I'm going to click to the bottom, making sure it's in the middle. All right. And then the next one, I'm going to click at the top and do the same thing. All right. Next one, same thing. Now, once you get to the very end and you have all of your lines in between each of the books, on this same layer, you're going to come up here to Filters and click on Blur, Gaussian Blur. I don't know why my toolbox keeps disappearing. But anyway, over here, and we're going to put this up to like 349, I believe. 349. And as you can see, what that does is it creates this little light between the books, and it looks a little bit like the fold. So I'm going to shut the one we just did off, and here's the one that has all of the books. I did all of the lines earlier, so you didn't have to sit and watch every single one of them. Okay, so at this point, this is now done. Okay, and the next thing is going to be piecing it together and putting it into our diagram here that we made earlier. So in order to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is trying to get this so that you can see everything. The first thing I'm going to do is remove these guidelines because I don't need them anymore. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to move is the front cover. So I'm going to come over here to my rectangle and I'm going to surround my cover and then click inside, click on Edit and Copy Visible. If you click on just copy, it's going to copy the whole image. But if you copy visible, it's going to limit itself to copying what's inside that rectangle. So copy visible. And so now I'm going to come up here to the diagram and I'm going to click Control V to paste it. Okay. And so now I'm going to paste the layer down and I'm going to click on Shift S and shrink it down just a bit like this. All right. And now I'm going to come over here and click on this cube looking tool that says Perspective Tool. I'm going to click on the tool and then click on the image. And you may or may not be able to see it, but it has 4 little squares or diamonds in each of the corners. So one by one, I am going to move these corners into the position of where they need to be. in order for my cover to take the shape of this cover. All right. And just like with the Paths tool, it looks great from this angle, but I have to go in really close to make sure that I have everything covered and it's all straight. Okay. And don't worry about this line because we're going to do a little gradient here. All right, and then as soon as it's in place, you click on transform and then your cover is in place. So now we're going to go back to our image and I'm going to do the same thing with the books. So I'm going to come over here and get my rectangle tool and I'm going to surround all of the books. And I'm going to go in and make sure I don't bring in any of that top line. And the same thing here. I want to get everything without the line. All right. And then right-clicking inside, I'm going to click on Edit, Copy Visible, and then come back up here to the model, click Control V to copy, paste it down, Shift S to shrink it down a little bit. All right. And then I'm going to move it. And then click on the perspective tool and click on it. And then put it into place. And you're going to leave a tiny little space between the front cover and the back cover. And you're going to put it in here and in here. There we go. All right, and I'm going to go in close to see how even it is. It's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to hit transform. All right, and so that is now done. So I'm going to click, make sure nothing is selected, and then click on the bottom here. All right. So now we're going to put a little bit of a gradient in between here that's going to create an illusion that it's, rounded a little bit. So I'm going to choose two colors here that will match. I'm going to choose the background color as like a dark brown, I guess, or dark brownish green. And then this light one here, I think this is light enough. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, and so now I'm going to use my Paths tool again. So first I'm going to make a layer for my gradient. A gradient layer. Okay, so come over here, my Paths tools, and I'm going to go here and just put a little bit of an arc there. And the same thing down here, more even. And then I'm going to come up here, and before I click this, I'm going to lean on my control key so that it will indicate I'm ending this path. Okay. And then I'm going to click on Shift V to make it active. All right. And then I'm going to click on the gradient tool. And down here, I'm going to click foreground to background RGB. And I have chosen bilinear. Okay. And I'm also going to drag down a guideline because I have to hold either the shift or the control. I'll let you know in a minute to make sure I get the proper gradient. So I'm going to it must be the control. Yeah, there it is. Okay, there you go. All right. And that is the final copy. Let me just make sure that this is okay at the top. Yeah, that's okay at the top. Now, I think I have one little piece of the black going along here. So what I'm going to do is come down here to the outside border, and I'm going to click on my erase tool. I have my hardness brush selected, and I'm going to go down to like 2 pixels, and I'm just going to erase this here. And then you can also erase anything, any other spot that you maybe some of the black line is sticking out and you don't want that. So just go around with the eraser and erase anything you don't need. So anyway, that is the video. Now, I said earlier that if you want to stick around, I will show you how to do that finger grip or thumb grip, whatever they call it. That's very popular on the front of these 3D bundle covers. So I'll go into that next. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I'm going to show you how to create the thumb cut on the front cover. So I have opened a document or created a document, and let's see what the size is. It is 1600 wide pixels and 2032 pixels high, and it's 300 dpi. All right. And then I have copied and pasted and resized my cover. So it's right in the middle, and I have plenty of space to work. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create the punch out of the thumb cut. So I'm going to come up here to the ellipsis tool and just pull out a circle. I want it to be 250 by 250. Okay. And then I'm going to, by leaning on the dead center of the circle, I'm going to bring it in here to about the center. I'm just eyeballing it here. Okay. And then I'm going to come up here to select and click on to path. All right. And then I'm going to hit the delete key, and that's going to pop out this little thumb cut. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to create another layer here. And I'm going to call this one the thumb shadow. Okay. Okay, so in this one here, we're going to create the shadow. So I'm going to flip these colors here. So I have the darker color that I got from inside my cover. And I am going to choose the gradient. And I'm also choosing the gradient that is foreground to transparent. And I'm using this one where it's a real good fade. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here, making sure that I'm on the right layer, and drag out a line here, creating the shadow. Okay. There. That's good. All right. And then I'm going to click on the move tool to get out of that. And then also up here in the select, I'm going to click none. And that puts the shadow in. Now, in order to get rid of this, the shadow that leaked over the side of the book cover, I'm going to come in with my rectangle tool and just create a rectangle here, and then click on delete. And that will delete anything that goes over the cover area. All right, and click the move tool. Now I'm going to create a highlight around this edge here. So I need another layer to put it on, and I'm going to call this one the line edge. And I'm going to be using my Paths tool. So I come up here to the top here, put my first circle there, come down here. And then in order to get this to go into a round shape, I'm putting one square here and then clicking the next one over here, and then I'm going to pull it so that it assumes the shape of the round thumb. Assumes the shape of the round thumb cut. And then from this one, I'm going to come down and click over here and do the same thing. Pull this out until it goes around here. All right. And then come back in here. And then go all the way down and click the last one here. All right, so now it's all set up and it's all even. So I'm going to come over here to Edit and click on Stroke Path. And I'm going to make this one about 22 pixels. Stroke. Okay, and that's good. I wanted it a little bit bigger. All right, and now I'm going to click on Filters, Blur, and then Gossamer Blur, just to blur this ever so slightly. So I go up to about 350, and that'll be good. All right, so that is the front cover with the thumb cut. So now let me show you how you put it on the books. So let's click on the Move tool. So I'm out of everything and make sure that I'm not selecting any layer. All right, and so now I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm going to surround the entire front cover, including, I have to go in close to make sure that I'm getting all of the shadow and the bottom here too. All right. And now I'm going to click inside and choose Edit, Copy Visible. And then I'm going to come over here to my finished book cover, which is fine the way this is. But if you want to, you can just put this one on top. So I'm going to click on Control V. All right, and lay it down. Now, of course, it's gigantic. So I'm going to click on Shift S to resize it. I'm going to bring it down to about the size I'm going to need it to be. And then come in closer. All right, click over here. Click on the Move tool to get out of that tool. All right, and then once again, let me just make sure. Okay, this is on its own layer. Okay, and then I'm going to click over here to the Perspective tool and also click on the picture, and then you'll see the 4 little diamonds that appear. And one at a time, I'm going to move the diamonds into place. All right, let me go in close and make sure I have everybody in the right place. Yeah, okay, and then hit transform. Okay, and there is your 3D cover with the thumb cut. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, especially those of you who watched until the end. If you learned anything or you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me. And I will leave you with a panel of my books, as well as my new Brainstorming How to Think Up Storylines workbook that I just published. And I will see you then in the next video.